Chapter 26. Family Ties. I haven't seen you here before, have I? I take this one all the time, and everybody knows me and looks after me. Are you from Miami, too? My dad runs a nonprofit organization called Filling Empty Houses there, and my mom's an actress in Hollywood. Well, she wants to be an actress, but she's already done a commercial for toothpaste and an infomercial for an exercise machine. I think she's very pretty, and my dad says I look just like her, but I don't think his new girlfriend likes that we talk about mom so much, so we try to wait till she's not around. Are you divorced? My mom and dad are still friends and talk all the time, but Jenny's folks really hate each other, and they can't even look at each other. I think I'd rather not be divorced when I grow up, but my folks say sometimes that it's the best thing, but sometimes not. Are you okay? John wasn't so okay. The precocious youngster in the seat next to him had been rattling on since the pre-flight safety talk had concluded, and as the engine noise level increased and they taxied toward the runway, he turned and bent towards her. "I guess I'm a little nervous," he whispered in a conspiratorial way. "I've never flown before." "Oh," she said knowingly. "Well, I was scared too my first time, but now I do it all the time, and it's really no big deal. It'll get really loud in a minute, but that's just till we get off the ground. And after that, you'll hardly notice the noise anymore, and it's almost always very smooth along the way. In fact, in a few hours, like after the movie is done and they give us lunch, we'll be able to see the Grand Canyon because we're on the port side of the plane. Port is left because it's a four-letter word, too, and starboard is the name for the right side of the plane, well, and for boats, too. My name is Katie. What's yours?" "John," he said quietly, as his stomach did flip-flops in time with the increasing RPMs of the engines. "Okay, John," Katie said. "Let's do this." She reached into her purse, pulled out one of those tiny game machines he'd seen kids use, always wondering how their thumbs could move so fast. She reached out across the armrest with her left hand and took his right hand in her own, then held out the game machine between them with her right. "It's called Thaxis. You catch the red bubbles, and I'll catch the blue ones. Go!" John instinctively grabbed the device with his left hand and began manipulating the joystick button with his thumb, imitating Katie as he swept a little blue net around the tiny screen, capturing flying bubbles with it. When he finally caught his first red bubble and shouted, "Got one!" a little too loudly, he realized they were airborne and that the engine roar was all but gone. "See?" Katie said as she put the toy back into her bag. "That wasn't so bad, was it?" "No, Katie, thanks to you, it wasn't bad at all." Mac hadn't slept a wink, and when her cab dropped her off at Wright, Poglia, and Adams, she looked it. Bernie reintroduced himself as Mr. Wright's secretary and asked Mac what she took in her coffee as he ushered her into Oscar's office. "Good morning, Mac," Oscar said. "How was your flight?" "Better than last night's sleep," she answered. "You sure know how to stir up a person's life." "Well, to be fair, I'm only the messenger," he said as Bernie re-entered with Mac's coffee. "This is your mom's hot potato that we're tossing around." "Thank you," Max said to Bernie, who nodded and closed the door after himself when he left. "Not to pry," Oscar said, "but I'm assuming your mother had some master plan for the, shall we say, sensitive documents she gave into my keeping. When she passed and I opened my envelope, her instructions were to personally make copies for you and to prepare the originals for automatic shipment to the State Attorney General's office in the event of any harm coming to you or myself. That, of course, was a bit unsettling, so as an officer of court I chose not to read them in any depth, but even a cursory glance while photocopying them made it obvious that your father probably wouldn't be thrilled to know that we have them." "My God," Max said, "you got that right. I always knew my father was shady and did business with shady characters, but I was clueless about how shady the shade really was. I'm no lawyer, but I'm guessing Mom was right. That stuff could put him behind bars for a long time." "That's what I was thinking, too," Oscar said. "But what does she want you to do with it?" "Well, that's the strangest thing. She never said. She apologized to me over and over. She obviously hated him and herself, but she only referred to the documents as insurance, saying that I should have them now." Now we're back to my initial suspicions and to the story about Samson. Your mom accumulated the strength to bring down the house on your father's head, but instead of doing so, she passed that power to you. And then instead of suggesting that you do the honors, as I was wrongly assuming she would do, she simply called it insurance. Okay, I guess I need to ponder that more, but at present let me explain the situation that will begin unrolling shortly after the funeral. By the way, will you be attending? I'd rather not. I was hoping you'd say that, all things considered. With your permission, I'll send my investigator just to see who's there. Depending on whether or not your dad knows anything about what Sarah was doing, he may have some of his shady friends looking for you, so not going to the funeral is good, and going back to your hotel is probably not so good. Now I wish I'd read that stuff carefully, and with your permission I will. But for now, can I send Bernie over to get your things? If you're trying to scare me, Max said, it's working. Am I really in danger? I certainly hope not, but your father's law firm has been known to defend folks suspected of having mob ties, and I don't think we should just assume that there's no significance to that. Can I send Bernie over to the waterfront? He'll bring back your stuff, but we'll let the 4-day reservation ride in case anyone's watching. Sure, Max said, but why does that just make me feel worse? I know, Oscar replied, but let's just hope it's all my overactive imagination at work. He buzzed Bernie and the door opened promptly. Bernie, please do me a great favor, and please do it carefully. Mac will give you her room key at the waterfront. If and only if no one is watching you, enter her room, collect her belongings, and return here with them. Take these, Oscar said, handing Bernie the vase of fresh flowers from his desk. Put them in that giant gift bag out in the supply closet. If you get in, leave the flowers and carry Mac's stuff back out in the bag. If anyone seems at all interested in following you upstairs to her floor, place the flowers in front of some other room's door, and then go home and call me from there. Got it? No problem, boss. Good, thanks. Bernie took the flowers and left, and Oscar turned to Mac. I'll buy you replacement stuff if it comes to that, but suddenly nothing seems routine about any of this. Okay, back to the game plan, Mac. Your father may or may not file for a reading of your mother's old will, but since you are not likely to be in it, nor any other party outside of himself, I doubt that he will. His law firm will likely just file it as read. I, on the other hand, must file for a public reading of the more recent will, and that's going to be the bell that signals round 1 of this fight. But why does there have to be a fight? Mac asked. Why can't we forget about her will or give the money to charity and just go back to our lives? 2 reasons, Oscar replied, that have everything to do with the unintended consequences thing I mentioned the first time we spoke. Reason 1, I am legally bound to carry out your mother's wishes. Once I have done so, you will be free to sign it over to the charity of your choice, and as you say, go back to your life. Reason 2, and I just love that you never even asked me about this, would be the $6.4 million Sarah left you.